everybody, Jared of Second Life Design. Welcome back to Milling Monday. So I'm in the process of milling a couple large sycamore logs. Anybody who's following me on social media can just kind of keeping track of that. And I'm needing to max out my cut width. These logs are actually bigger than what I can mill. And so instead of I'm just to trim off, pieces to get around, when I'm cutting slabs, I'm actually going to check out my mill setup and make sure I'm getting the most out of it. So let me show you the couple things I'm doing and hopefully they'll help you. Okay, here's my chainsaw setup. This is what I use to mill with. I've had this for a long time. It works really well. I have a MS661 and connected to a 56-inch bar. It's a Forester bar. It's held up really well. Maybe get one or two more seasons out of it. And I have that attached to a matching 56-inch Granberg chainsaw mill. It's a really slick setup. Works awesome. I can do a lot of big pieces. Just the logs I'm working on now. They're just over what my maximum width. Right now I can squeeze out about 47 inches. This thing's bowed a little bit, so it's right at 47 inches. So that's our starting number. So that's going to be from this post down to that post. Talking about how we can maximize this. Let's start up at the front. I'm going to show you this. We'll see the actual yield we gain after doing this. Right now the mill is hitting these chainsaw dogs, the felling spikes. So let's remove these. We don't need these for milling. They aren't spurring into the tree at all. This one's already loose, just gotta get it wiggled out of there. So see how much room we have now between here and here? I'm gonna remove the bottom dog, and so what I'm gonna do at this point is actually slide the mill in. I won't have it touching the chainsaw power head, but it's gonna gain us an inch or two right there. We'll start at that point. All right, a quick note about this. This chainsaw, the spikes are really easy to take off. All the bolts are really short. All these are really doing are holding these felling dogs on. I don't know about Huskies, if they're any different. If the bolts are really long and they're kind of a captive thing where they're holding the two case halves together, you may want to be a little more careful and inspect that a little bit more. I don't know what other chainsaw manufacturers use. These are short screws, short bolts. They are literally just holding these on. So I'm pretty comfortable just taking these off. They're not holding the halves of the engine together or anything like that. So if that's something that is a concern, check with your mechanic. Someone who could say for sure what those screws are doing beyond just holding the spikes on. All right, so right now there is about 2 inches between the frame of the mill and the actual power head itself. What's gonna be our limiting factor is actually this U-bolt. It sticks out about a ½ inch further than the frame, and that's actually fine. It's gonna prevent us from getting it too close to the bar, or to the power head. So that's where I'm gonna leave it, and that gives us enough wiggle room so there's no interference between the power head and the mill itself. And right now there is a ½ inch clearance. So perfect. We just gained 1.5 inches. One last thing to note, the chain brake. You want to make sure that you have enough room for this to engage. So depending on your saw, this might be your limiting factor on what prevents you from moving this even further. I like where this is at. We're at about that ½ inch clearance. You can kind of see it with that U-bolt where it goes, where there's just enough room there to allow the power head to move and flex and do its thing and still be independent of the mill. So I like where this one's sitting. All right, so all of our work is done on the power end. We're working all on the nose end now. I think it's important to remember when moving this out, we need to think of this sprocket end. This is just a wheel down here that, maybe a little bigger than that, we'll call it there, that's what the chain is riding on. That's all that is. That's what's riveted in there. Some of them are replaceable, some of them aren't, depending on whether it's a hard-nosed bar or serviceable bar, whatever. We just don't want to clamp that down. We don't want to clamp down around that. So, this is really, it seems pretty basic, but I think we need to remember what we're listening for with this. When this end is clamped around the bar, we just need to make sure the chain moves. The chain moves free and easy. That's what we're looking for. So I'm gonna wiggle this thing down here a little bit. We'll get about right there. And I'm gonna tighten this down. When I'm tightening these, I like to get one side where it just starts to tighten, and then use the other side to clamp it down. You don't want to tighten one side all the way down, and then the other one, it won't be clamped straight. You'll cause some pinching problems with your chain. We're looking at this. It moves just as easy as it did before, so I think we're okay. I'm gonna give this one final snug down, and let's check our measurement. So right now I'm sitting at 50 inches. So we've gained 3 inches overall on this. That's pretty sweet. All right, so we gained 3 inches of cut width. I know people are gonna say that that's not that much. You're not gaining all that much for what you're risking, or you just need to get a bigger bar if you wanna cut that big. And you're right. If you wanna go bigger and bigger and bigger, you're always gonna need a bigger bar. At some point, you just have to kind of say when, and to say, I don't need anything bigger than this. This is as big as what my saw can handle. I don't need any more. And that's kind of where I'm at. You're always going to find a bigger log. You're always going to find one that's just a bit wider and just a little bit more. And that's kind of what I'm thinking with this. To save, have to save from having to trim off the ends of a crotch section, or get a little bit wider of a single slab. We're just getting the most efficiency out of this as possible. So that's my thinking. I hope it helps people in that regard. Someone's probably going to ask about power. You're just taking that much more power out of your saw. You're overworking your saw. I'm not concerned about speed with my cuts. I laugh at the chainsaw videos of people trying just to cut as fast as possible. That's great if you're a firewood processor or lumberjack or something. I'm not really too concerned about speed. I've said that before. I'll keep saying it. I'm not as concerned with cut speed. I'm worried about just getting a good finish and milling as wide as I can. If it takes me 3 minutes longer per slab, so be it. I'm not concerned about it. So just to stop that right there. Any other questions, let me know. Any other comments, drop them down below. You can always find me on Instagram at Secondlifedesign. Anything else I can do, let me know, guys. I want to get more practical things, visual things. I'm working on it. I'm doing some big milling right now, so there's going to be a lot of videos coming about that. So I appreciate everyone's patience and sticking with it. So anything else, let me know. Thanks.